Hi, I'm Helena,
And I'm John,
and our family are here in the southwest of France.
having interesting experiences in this current environment that is like a worldwide lockdown, really.
Yeah, and it's affecting everyone, and we're for sure being affected by that, and we're navigating around ways to deal with that. Um, some of us react and respond to self isolation in a much more open, calm way, and others, during the day it gets more expressive in their system, the uncomfortability of being restricted. And
Yeah,
we had a situation the other day, didn't we, that we felt was really relevant and pertinent to share. That's what we felt.
yeah, and it was something that happened with me, and I'd already felt the collective fear of humanity, and it sounds a bit grand, but it was really like nothing else I'd ever felt. And I'm an empath that feels people's emotions
And your own.
and my own, of course. And I used to not be able to identify which was mine and which was someone else's, but then I met someone who was an empath themselves, and that helped me to discern which was mine. And it became a useful tool in helping other people with what was going on within their bodies mainly.
It is a constant theme, though, isn't it? Because it depends on what's happening in your environment in that moment. And it can be really hard to distinguish what is your feeling state and what's going on for everyone else. So there's always a checking in, isn't
Yeah.
there? And because we're a family who have very intense feelings about a lot of things, we're often in discussion with it, aren't we? We're in conversation.
Yeah.
And that way we help each other. We don't ignore things, and we sit down with each other and say, hey,
Yeah.
how's it going? Yeah.
So I was okay going to the shops to start with in this lockdown situation where we have to sign a form, a self-declaration called an attestation. And this form is something that you have to take with you to show that you've actually filled it in. And it used to be printed, but now you can have it on your phone, which is kind of more convenient. But anyway, that I was going out to the shops because we need to buy food sometimes because we've got to eat. And
Apparently.
I was overwhelmed with this anxiety that I felt was partly not mine, because when I go out to the shops I pick it up on everyone around me, but it was also partly mine, and that was the bit that was overwhelming, because I can normally let it go if I get this sort of feeling.
And it seemed more intense than normal.
It was really...
And I mean, we haven't been going out regularly because it's quite, a situation to organise to go out, because we're in a bubble here and it's a beautiful, calm, serene, amazingly beautiful environment. And, to leave it is actually quite a thing in
it's quite
itself.
a big deal,
Actually, it feels quite a big deal sometimes. And yet these things are daily things to face. And
Yeah.
but we noticed as a family that you were going through quite a bit of anxiety with it, and it felt more than normal.
Yeah.
So
And then your empathic bit came in, didn't it?
it did, because it does that, apparently.
What was your bit that you identified with in my system?
Well, what happens to me is that when someone feels out of balance, my empathic system starts to feel things and see things which are, they're kind of going on around you. And I saw this young boy who was actually he was partially in a wheelchair, to be honest, and he seemed really worried about something, or that someone else was worried about something, and it felt like it was, I could see you, and then I could see this child, and it kept, you kept moving between the two, and I could feel the distress of it.
Anyway, we did identify that or I felt that it related to a time when I was 2.5, when I contracted polio, which is a pretty big deal at any time. And in those days it was a particularly big deal because lots of people actually died from it.
Yeah.
Or they had to be on an iron lung for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So fortunately I didn't get it so badly because it paralysed my legs, and then I got the feeling back in them.
Yeah.
And there was a fear within me that was lingering, and we identified that this was the fear that I was,
that was going on.
Fears are coming to the surface now.
Yeah.
If you need to look at a fear because you've got to raise your vibration or whatever you want to talk about in that context, it's really present, and I realised that was what was going on.
I remember asking you the question about your little boy, this boy that is you. I mean, you're an adult now. You're a father yourself, and but this boy was still kind of part of your situation and was affecting your feeling state now.
Yeah.
Because everything comes up into the now. And I remember asking you, how did the little boy feel? And I remember your first response was that the little boy actually felt okay, but everyone else didn't.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of key that started to
particularly
unlock.
my parents, and specifically my mother.
Yeah.
She had a hard time giving birth to me, and I was pretty young when I contracted this polio.
Yeah.
And so she was really overwhelmed by the whole situation. She had 3 other children as well. And
I remember you told me the story that she had to put these calipers on your legs every night.
I had to wear them all day and all night to start with for about 6 months, and then for another 2.5, 3 years I had to wear them at night. So every night I had to wear these things.
So the feeling of your mom was kind of, it felt like it was wrapped around your whole
and they were
body
wrapped.
system, and so that's it was a kind of a metaphor of being wrapped around you and on your legs, and so that the movement or the fluidity of the movement of energy around you felt restricted. And I feel that the other thing that came up was that when you were a boy, you felt like you could handle it yourself, but what you couldn't handle was other people's feelings being, kind of almost projected or transferred onto you.
And this was the beginning of my ability to be an empath, but I had no idea what was going on at the time.
No, can imagine. I mean, 2.5, 3, how would you know that?
None of my family did, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, that you could pick up and sense other people's feelings, and you take them on as yours. I mean, literally, you took on your parents' feelings, actually.
I did.
And made them yours. So something happens when you have to almost move from one environment to another. You realise that you do have your own feelings, and you also carry the feelings of other people around you. So it felt like going into even a shop environment was overwhelming.
And throughout my life, I've had situations where I've been overwhelmed in that type of situation, where I've had to go and do something that was beyond my comfort zone, and most of the time I could handle it in some way, but I would feel a lot of fear and anxiety in that context.
Yeah.
It's ironic that I became a performer.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's another way of
It was a way of
handling
coping.
it and coping,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, with it, so that you take on another persona. And so we brought this up, didn't we? We brought the boy forward, and we brought your parents forward, in effect, the energy of that, so that you as an individual,
and it really struck me
now,
as absolutely relevant.
Yeah.
And then we went to sleep, because this was late at night when it cropped up.
Yeah.
And in the early hours of the morning, around 3 a.m, I listened to one of your soundings that you recently made.
Yeah.
And I'd already listened to it, and it didn't particularly resonate, but it absolutely resonated when I listened to it at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
You're a bit more receptive at 3 a.m. to whatever's going on.
So there's a timing for these things,
Yeah.
you know. It seems it's.
And I felt things really lift.
Yeah.
And then I listened to another video of someone that we know well, you know, who's a channel, and that also resonated. And I felt, okay, I can go to the shops now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting transformational experience, so that you were able to discern whose feelings belong to whom.
Yeah. And I've gone through recent life being able to do that mostly.
Yeah.
And on this occasion, it was just a build-up, because I had to look at this fear and find out what was going on with it.
Yeah.
And I had to identify it and then find a way of letting it go, because it's not mine.
Yeah. Well, it was yours.
Yeah. Well, I became attached to it.
You became attached to it, so maybe you didn't need to carry it in every aspect of your daily living life.
And I feel that we're making a recording about it because it's something that other people will feel.
Well, we felt that it must also have an effect when you're very empathic, and you can feel what others are feeling, and that it can become extremely overwhelming.
It can be paralyzing.
Yeah. And you might even, you know, I think even having to take care of watching things like videos sometimes about the virus that's engulfing, you know, the global humanity at the moment, that sometimes you can read something or watch a video, and actually you can end up taking on the symptoms yourself without even realising.
But you haven't actually got the virus, you've got the symptoms because of the collective fear.
Yeah, or you've got the feeling
You can
state.
feel the fear.
Yeah, so in an empath, what can happen is that if someone has a chest infection or you know, a cough or something, you can actually find yourself emulating that.
Yeah, I've had
and we've spoken
exactly
to
this
others.
happen to me.
Yeah,
and I used to go to the doctor, and the doctor would test or whatever, and say, no, there's nothing wrong with you. We've tested you, you're fine. But I got the symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how powerful feelings are.
Yeah.
And how they can, you know, feed through into your own system, because we have a lot of caring and a lot of loving for humanity and for people that we know and love, and even when we don't know them, we can feel how they might be feeling, and it's just something to check in with occasionally, to take a moment to go and sit in nature, or we do a meditation in our hamlet, you know, once a day, and
at a safe distance.
At a safe distance, and we have communication with each other. We're aware that these things are happening, and we've been in contact with other friends of ours, you know, across the globe, because we've got contacts with people all over the world, and sometimes when we're discussing things with them, they also haven't realised that they've taken on something which either wasn't theirs.
And we do find ways of supporting each other and identifying what's going on.
Yeah, we do. We're just a reflection of, just check in with yourself. Is that yours? And if it is yours and it comes from something in childhood maybe, then that can be enough to sort of like pop the bubble so that you realise, oh, okay, wake up. Yeah, okay, I got it. It's just an overwhelm of feelings. So,
but it doesn't have to overwhelm you.
No. So you can rebalance and recenter and know that you're safe and that you're in a calm place and all is well with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we trust that all is well with you, and we send that
you
love.
lots of love.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.